Hello and welcome to another episode of DIY EV Chat. My name's Tom Cheesewright and my guest today is a man who, well, I think probably has some guilt about my introduction into the EV conversion world, and I suspect the same is true for a lot of you too. His videos were the thing that probably convinced me that this was possible. Didn't absolve him or me of any risk, or remove the chance of any risk, but did make me think that it was entirely possible and it was something I could do on my front drive, and so I did. Welcome to DIY EV Chat, Damien Maguire.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much for having me on.
My absolute pleasure. So, listen, the first place I want to start is kind of with it, where I start with everybody, which is the skills to do this. What was your background? What skills did you have before you even started on your first conversion or considered the possibility? Where did you come into this world?
Sure. Well, my formal qualification is as an electronics engineer. Um, at the time that I suppose, started my first conversion in 2009, I had about 10 to 11 years of industry experience at that stage, mostly with R&D, hardware design, that kind of thing. Um, I'd also, for my youth, been quite interested in cars. I'd always messed around with cars, always had an old banger in the driveway that I'd be messing about on, getting my hands dirty and just generally kind of learning and as I go. Um, I suppose I'd also uh, by my nature always kind of branched out into kind of wider things and kind of had a bit of mechanical experience, like kind of welding, fabricating, that kind of thing came along. Um, as well. So I was kind of, I suppose, I was in a good place as these things go. Not that I would like to say not that you need to have that kind of things, particularly now. But a decade or more ago, we didn't have the things, the parts, the kind of sharing that we have going on now. So that, that kind of does take a little bit of the load out of what people need to have.
I
Um,
think even just in the last sort of 2 years, it feels like the level of expertise you need to have has dropped quite dramatically.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
I look at how I would approach a project now versus how I approached a project just sort of 2 years ago, and there's a huge
yeah.
amount more information and capability out there, and I think the shift from um, you know lobotomizing inverters to putting on to using the zombie verter in the serial communications is a really good example of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I looked into it, I first looked into it about 2 years before I started the first conversion in about 2007, and the only game in town then was to import about 15 grand's worth of gear from the United States, and that would basically get you very basic and quite by, especially by today's standards, low power DC series wound motor and a controller and a little 2 kilowatt charger, and that was it. That was your
Mm.
15 grand spent. So I guess for me, what in 2009, the singular thing that made the leap into it was the Paul Holmes open source DC motor controller and the community that had built up around that. And so when I started in on that, I kind of saw the difference that it made to me. And I wanted to give something back out into that. And it just kind of walked on from there. And I can remember thinking back then, oh, I'll do this for a year, maybe two, and then I'll get bored and I'll move on. And we're now, what, I don't know, 13 years down the road. And this has by the actions, I would say, mostly of the people that have, supported me over the years. This has become what I do now. So I try to figure out how all the black boxes work and make them accessible. So that's my day job.
So, so what was
At
that?
the
What
minute.
was that community? What was that community that you first you mentioned? Did you say Paul Holmes, the sort of open source DC controller?
Yeah, yeah. Basically, back then, there was a guy in the US called Paul Holmes, and the forum. I think the forum is still there. I think most of the information is still there. It was the Eco Modder forum, and like I joined up there, and I was able to buy this little kit from Paul, which was the kind of brain board, the control board for this thing, and I got that, and it was like €100 or something like that to get that here to me. And I thought, well, I kind of can't go too far wrong with this. And I was able to then say, okay, that's how that works, and build my own power stage. And I went through various iterations with it, but I had a running motor. And I thought, well, at that time as well, I was kind of following Gavin Shoebridge's videos on YouTube because he was really the only person on there then that was doing a video series about a build. And I thought, well, I need to show people, you don't need to go and spend 15 grand on this. So I broke out this is embarrassing, a VHS camcorder, and got myself a video capture card. And so my first videos from 2009 are still there in good old analog format. So yeah, and then it was kind of from there on, that's what it's been for me. And the cameras have improved, fortunately. Can't say my looks have. But the cameras, by virtue of, I guess, what's in your phone now is, better than most cameras you can buy. So that's what I tend to do. And
And so, was that your
so,
first conversion? Did you capture your first conversion then?
yeah.
And what was that? Because you're obviously a BMW man. What led you down that path?
Well, what happened was that I got the controller kit, the little board from Paul Holmes, and I got that working on the bench. The first motor that I spun with that was an old starter, an old Nissan Sunny starter motor. But I thought I'm going to need a motor that I can put in a car. So then what I saw people on that forum doing was they were modifying forklift motors. And I thought, okay, how am I going to get a forklift motor? So I got on the yellow pages, or as we call it here, because there was some lawsuit. It can't be called the yellow pages here, so it's called the golden pages. And I just spammed every single forklift company in the country with email. I must have sent about 40 emails. I got three responses. I got one motor for completely free. I got one motor just for the cost of shipping it. And I got one motor, I think I paid like 300 or €400 for it. So all of a sudden, I had these motors and I had a way to control them. And yeah, so then I kind of figured, okay, I need a car. And so I spoke to a friend of mine that ran a little independent garage. And he said, I've a BMW E36 compact here with a engine that's blown the head gasket, and I can give it to you for €200. How does that sound? So sold, sight unseen, and that was it. That was the first conversion. Um,
And did you have a
That went
passion for
on.
BMWs before that, or was that just that was your
I
introduction?
kind of, sort of, yeah. They were kind of a brand that I liked, but I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have been as, I wouldn't have been as dead set as I find myself now. Um, but yeah, I kind of, once I got in working on the car and that I could kind of see with it that, that kind of somebody thought a little bit and somebody cared a little bit. And I'm sure there are other brands that do that, but this was like kind of the one that I was there working on. So that's what got me hooked. So then, like, I had to buy a couple of special tools and get wiring diagrams and stuff. So then it just kind of went on naturally from there. I think at one point I've had to reduce the fleet a little bit now because of the house move, but I think at one point I had nine of them. So that was probably a little bit too many. Sorry. Uh, so yeah, that's what got me hooked on the Beamers. Was that little car. Um,
So your first one was
so
the E36 Compact then, and that was running a DC motor. What was your next one?
yeah.
What did you do after that?
So I actually, with that car, that was, like I said, that was well over 10 years ago. And 10 years ago was when I moved to this house. And I had that car on the road then with a 9 kilowatt hour pack of lithium cells that I'd made up out of those headway. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're the kind of cylindrical cells. And I'd made up a pack. That's all on VHS for you if you want to look at it as well. So complete with various tracking bars running across the screen for you. So um, that car was how I moved here. The
Wow.
previous house I was in was about 40 miles away, and I remember some weeks driving. One week I drove 739 miles in that car, just
Wow.
there and back, there and back. Then when I came here, um, moved here full time in October 2012. So then I wanted to do another project. And I wanted to do a 5 series, and then the E39 was the one that I really wanted. And I basically went off and I found the cheapest E39 in Ireland at the time was €700. It was about 200 miles away from here. It had a 2 litre petrol engine with the head gasket gone in at least three different spots. The guy had attempted to repair some of the coolant hoses with silicon sealant, bathroom sealant. That didn't work. Um,
You surprised me.
yeah, I know. Yeah, it surprised me too. And there was more water in the oil sump than oil. Uh, but I got it home. It took a full day. It took a lot of water. It took more water than petrol, unsurprisingly. About 4 cans of Radweld from various filling stations along the way that had no effect at all. But they made me feel good that I was trying to help it. So got it home, and the engine had got so hot on the last leg that it had scorched the paint on the inside of the bonnet. So that's still there. That mark is still there on it. But that car got another DC motor because that was still about the most affordable, the easiest to get, the thing I was most familiar with. And that car with the DC motor, that was a rebuilt forklift motor again, one of the ones that I'd gotten free. Um, and that DC system in that car ran for just over 100,000 miles. Um, and there was no need to change brushes or no maintenance on it or any of that stuff that you frequently heard being spun, usually by the people that wanted to sell you a 10 grand AC motor. Uh, so that car then it got that's been through a few different iterations now. Literally just this week gone, I drove it down to the new house. It's got an AC system in it now, Siemens motor, and a Toyota Prius Gen 3 inverter. In that doing the job of inverter and DC DC, and that drove 174 miles to the new house.
Wow. And what
Uh,
pack's in that? What batteries in that?
So that's had a few different ones. What's in it at the minute is a 9 kilowatt hour BMW hybrid battery. I think it was from a 740E. And that is in parallel with a old Gen 1 Nissan Leaf pack, so the 24 kilowatt hour pack. That came
Wow.
out of my wife's Nissan Leaf about a year ago. So that's in there. And I didn't actually, until the trip this week, know what the actual combined capacity was. Because anytime I posted a video about it, the one question you were guaranteed to be in the comment section was, what's the battery capacity, Damien? I don't know, copy paste. I don't know, copy paste. Then you'd make another video about it. 3, 2, 1. What's the battery capacity, Damien? So, turns out I can now answer that here live on TV with you. 25 kilowatt hours.
Okay, so that's a sort of a somewhat degraded 24 kilowatt hour pack and a similarly somewhat degraded 9 kilowatt hour BMW pack. So 24, and you did how many miles with that?
That drove 174 miles total trip, and I did two charges if you discount it being full leaving here. I did two charging stops on the way, and I think that worked out. I posted it on Patreon there. I think the energy consumption worked out at something like 60 something kilowatt hours to get down there. So not bad for a 2001 E39 with me in it. Oh, and of course a load of stuff from the workshop in it too. And
Yeah,
probably not the best choice of tires because I had a set of really wide semi slicks on it. So they're not exactly energy efficient tires.
not
You
following
know,
your own advice about low rolling resistance
no,
there.
no, absolutely not. No, 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 no. Don't do as I do. Do as I say. That's got to be rule number one. So
So you,
that's
when
the
you moved
land
to
yacht.
yeah, so when you moved to this house, then you had space to work, didn't you? And you had
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
a garage, but there's still a fair bit done on the driveway.
Oh, it was all done on the driveway. I mean, I could at best get up to the windscreen in here because it's quite a small garage. And once I started putting stuff in here, there was just no space to bring a full size car in here. But yeah, I did all the conversions on the driveway here. The only exception to that was when I put the Tesla drive unit into the 8 series.
Mm.
A good friend of mine helped me, and we could use his workshop for that because that wouldn't have been much fun trying to bench press that thing up into the bottom of the Panzer. So.
Do you still have the 8 Series? Is that one gone?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That got driven down this week as well. That has better tires though, by the way. So that's got driven down. Basically, all the cars are now down at the new house, with the exception of the E46 Touring that I just use for
The Grey
literally,
Goose.
yeah, the Grey Goose, correct. That I use for traveling between here and the new house and hauling all of this junk. So
Yeah, it's a useful car. What's running the Grey Goose these days?
so the Goose has a Gen 1 Leaf motor and inverter, Zombie Verter VCU, and a Gen 1 Renault Zoe, the 22 kilowatt hour battery, and obviously the CCS fast charging with the BMW Lim, and it's got a Tesla Model 3 PCS that does 10 kilowatt AC charging and DC-DC converting.
I mean, that's just
So
such a useful combination. That's a very
yeah,
such a
yeah,
usable package. That.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And that car has been kind of the test bed for the VCU and all of the software that I've been working on for that. It's also in the land yacht as well, and very soon now there'll be one going into the Panzer. So, um, like all the cars, I try to make up as many combinations of things as I can in them because in one sense they're obviously cars for me to drive, but by the same token they're for testing things that I'm designing and then ultimately making available to the community.
So you've
So
got one running Nissan Leaf, one
yeah,
running Tesla, one
yeah,
running still got one running Siemens, one PV51 or
yeah.
something
It's
similar.
the Siemens with the Prius
Yeah.
inverter.
Have you got anything? You've got anything running the GS450, the L110?
I did at one point. I had a 7 series, an E65 7 series.
That's right.
That had the GS450H gearbox and inverter in it. Now, when the house move came up last summer, excuse me, I kind of realized that I wouldn't have the time to finish it. So there was a good friend of mine has taken that car and he's working away on it. Um, and I had another E39 that I had put in the Lexus, what is it, RX 400
Yes, this
rear
is where you.
differential motor into the rear subframe.
I was gonna say I saw you
So
modding the
he's
subframe.
yeah, so he's taken that as well. So he has both of those cars, and so what I'm hoping is he'll kind of finish them off, do some more work on them. Though I might, hopefully in the future when things calm down a little bit for me, I might get back involved with them because I really would like to do another project with with the GS450 system in particular. But I think that being said, there's quite a few people on the Open Inverter forum now that have actual daily driving cars with that system in
Yeah.
there. So that's really good to see. Um, but I
I'm
did,
hoping.
yeah, I drove it.
I'm hoping in a few months I'll have a drivable one with the L210. We shall see.
Oh yeah, I saw. I didn't get to see the video, but I saw that you had posted a video with a new build. I just didn't get a chance to
Yeah.
see it because I've been too
I've
busy
not.
driving.
I've not even tried to get it spinning yet, but I've got the inverter. I've got the L210 gearbox. Some
Oh, that's the
questions
one that
around it.
doesn't have the. That's the one that doesn't have the external pump.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, I know it. I
Um,
know it. Yes, I know that one. Yeah, that's from the newer. I think that's from the newer 2010 or 2011 on Lexus. I think they got rid of
yeah.
the. Yeah, I
The
know
IS
that one. I
300H. Um,
That's it. That's it. Yeah,
but
I
some
had one of
questions
those
about top speed.
inverters here. Yeah, I must get another one now because I sold that inverter. But that looked. I actually used one of those IS300 inverters for another project, not controlling a Lexus motor, but it worked really well. It was a very powerful one. So it'd be good. It'd be good to see that working. Um,
Fingers crossed.
the
Yeah. Well.
trick with those, yeah, trick with those is try to get access to the serial data between the Lexus VCU and the inverter. But maybe, fingers crossed, we will be able to find some way to do
Yeah, I'm hoping the protocol's similar to the GS450, or even better.
Well,
the same
Toyota are
as, but we
really
shall
good
see.
with, yeah, Toyota are pretty good with that. They tend to keep things fairly standardized. I mean, we have the Prius Gen 3 inverter workable with the Gen 3 trans axle.
Mm.
And it seems also that you can connect. I know I did one here. I didn't get a chance to do much on it, but I did one. There was a different Toyota motor that I connected to the Prius Gen 3 inverter and running it with the VCU. It just said, yeah, that's fine, spin. And I was like,
Interesting.
okay, that works. So
Mix
there
and
might be
match.
possibilities. It might even be a thing that with the IS300 gearbox, it might be possible to connect that to a Prius inverter, and the Prius inverter might say, yeah, that's fine, and just spin it up. So I don't know, but there's only one way to find out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I like your advice on that front. If nobody knows the answer to the question, there's really only one way to find out, which is to try it. And which I think that's a good fun way to do it. It's particularly with
Yeah,
the availability of parts now, and that's something else that seems to have changed is just the sheer availability of OEM
oh,
components now.
yeah, yeah. And it's not even the availability of them. It can be um, sometimes the fact that the quality and the testing and the R&D that you're buying in, when you go down to the scrapyard and you pay, I got there's a I have a Gen 3 leaf stack there that I'm going to put in the truck conversion, and I think that cost me like €600 or something. And the engineering that you're getting with that is just unreal. Probably, I don't know, a couple of 100 million that probably cost Nissan to engineer. And if it blows up, we'll just go get another one and put it in there. This is the thing with it. It's and I say to people, like, I see some folks today like to, try to do things from scratch, and I suppose I tend to try to steer them away a little bit because okay, you can do it. I've done it. Lots of people can still do that, but I'd rather be driving these days. So if I can buy a charger from a Leaf or a motor from a Tesla or whatever it is and just plug into that, and yeah, just get all that. Just let them do the hard work for you. That's kind of
So
my
the
motto
truck's
anyway.
an interesting project. So what are the plans for that? Now, I mean, you obviously got a lot of work to do on the new house before you can start getting
Sure.
into more
Well,
engineering.
I mean,
But
I kind of think the strange thing with the truck was that the strange thing with the truck was that when I got the house, I kind of looked and I said to myself, I'm going to need a truck because now I'm a rancher. So I got a 1 acre ranch that I'm going to need to wrangle cars on, and they're going to get stuck. So I'm going to need a truck. Um, and so I kind of, again, I went out and I found the cheapest truck size, 4-wheel drive, proper crew cab truck that I could find. And it was that one. I think I really blew the budget on that. I think that cost me like €900 delivered. So like some guy came up with it on the back of a truck and pushed it off. So I said, "Thank you very much. Take my cash." And it's like, and the truck driver was like kind of flabbergasted. He kind of looked at me and he said, "Did you go to see that first?" "Nope. Take my cash." but do you want to have a look at it? No, I'm fine. Here's the money. Okay, moron alert. I'll take that. Gone. So, yeah, I got a truck. It's a Mitsubishi L200. I found that name a little bit bland. So it turns out that I think in Australia and the US, it's called the Mitsubishi Triton. So I thought that's better. So that's called the Triton Missile now. So that got driven to the new house. That cost €60 of diesel. And if they charge the same for water as they charge for diesel, probably about £1,000's worth of water, because the head gasket's well gone on that one. So that's getting basically the 110 kilowatt Nissan Leaf Gen 3 complete stack. So motor, inverter, PDM. So that'll be getting bolted up to the existing gearbox. So I'll have the gearbox, transfer box, diff lockers, all that kind of thing on it. So that is probably going to get done a little bit sooner than maybe I would like to, because of the fact that I literally do need a truck for what I'm doing there. Like whether it's hauling trees down the field or, going to get things that I need for the house. Yeah, so that'll be that. And the question that then gets asked whenever I post a video about the truck is, what kind of battery are you putting in it? And I don't know. So I don't know. I'll have to find one.
Whatever turns up.
When it turns up, whatever's here, whatever turns up. Yeah.
So let's go back to the business then, because it has become your business, the sort of EVBMW business. You've got quite the. It's funny, you went through a period of sort of having quite a range of products now, and actually it looks like Zombievert has narrowed that down a bit. But then you get into things like the charging controllers and stuff like that. Where's the business at now? It is your full-time business? Do you have sort of a view of where it goes next? What the next big challenges are?
Yeah, this is what I've been doing full time. I left my last job. I left it in. I always get this wrong. I think it was 2016. And it was kind of a few reasons for that. One was a kind of a medical problem, because I'd had 2 heart attacks within a 9-month period. I'd have to have surgery and all kinds of things there. So that kind of made me sort of stop and look at, the way life was going for me and where I wanted to be with it. And also at that time, there was quite a few things. I was very lucky because a lot of people helped me through that particular period. Both financially and I guess moral support, that kind of thing. I mean, some from people that were close to me, and also from people that I don't know, people from just strangers, internet. So that's always a very humbling experience when folks do that. I wanted to give back. Like I said, I've always wanted to give back ever since the DC thing, and kind of try to help people. And I suppose I realized very quickly that I couldn't really help individual people because there's just so many. And I had to kind of put up a bit of a wall to stop people from kind of swamping me, because I kind of made the kind of choice that I could help maybe 1 or 2 people a year get their cars working, and so I could go work on their cars with them and probably make quite a lot of money doing that. But I'd rather help 100 people a year make a little bit of money, enough to survive, enough to keep me in batteries, and be able to feed some of that money back into getting more stuff that I could reverse engineer and make controls for it and get them out there and get people using them. So that's that's where I've been since then, and it's what I'm doing at the minute. I don't really want to. This may seem a little strange, but I don't actually want to, as they say these days, grow the business or evolve the business. I want it to kind of be this little simple cottage industry sort of a thing that I can do from, very modest overheads. So I've no desire like to have a big fancy conversion workshop with lifts and 20 guys running around in matching t-shirts with Damien is best blazing over them kind of thing. Now that would feed the old ego and the narcissism, but it would very quickly deplete the bank account. And then, that's kind of
Well,
not
and
where I want to
deplete
be.
you as
So
well.
yes, yes, correct. So I want to try to keep it at this level, where I can split my time between personal stuff, projects, and getting kits and boards out to customers. So I guess the biggest threat that I've had through the pandemic and that has been the semiconductor
Mm.
shortages. That's caused a lot of shake up in how I've done things, but I've worked through it. I've fortunately avoided touch wood so far, any kind of fake components or
That's good.
that kind of thing, because getting, for example, the STM32 processor that's on the Zombie Verter became almost impossible through traditional channels. So I did find a supplier in China for them. As I said to myself, 99% these are going to be fake. It won't matter what they say to me. So I got a few and I bench tested them and they seemed fine. So I thought, right, well, I can't sell these to people if I don't know that they work. So I put them in a car, and that's in the E39, and I drove it, and I'm still here. So therefore, I'm pretty sure they're not fakes. Either very good fakes, or they're the real thing. So hopefully now the supply chains will sort themselves out, and we'll be able to get normal parts again.
So, listen, a few of my standard questions to wrap up. First one is, what's the regulatory environment in Ireland like in terms of getting converted cars on the road?
Sure. Well, I know in the UK you guys are having a bit of a nightmare at the minute. Here, my first car when I brought it to the NCT, which is the Irish version of the MOT, it
Yeah.
failed on emissions, because there was no way they couldn't put the probe anywhere. Where am I going to put this? Okay, I won't tell you where I think you should put it. Okay, this is before Watershed TV here. So, but to be fair to them, they sorted it out. I got on to the NCT people here. This is like back in 2010. They sorted it. They gave me a free retest. I haven't had any problems then. Um, Regards registering or changing the registration documents, there is, or at least there was, a fairly straightforward procedure for that. There was a form, you just filled this in. You could put fuel type electric on this and get a main dealer for whatever brand of car that you had to just kind of sign this. Now, I
Right.
did that once or twice. That was fine. But then we got to the point that the main dealers wouldn't do that. So I had a bit of back and forth with the local authority. And I said to them, okay, well, I said, let me turn this around to you. What would you accept other than a main dealer stamp? So they went off and thought about it, and they came back to me and they said, well, if you get an automotive engineer's report stating that it's an electric vehicle, I said, I can do that. That's fine. Went off, found an automotive engineer, came out like 100 €60 or something to do an inspection on the car. Spent about 3 hours talking to the guy, learned an awful lot about, where I should and shouldn't place parts that I hadn't even thought about. So that was
Oh,
really good.
really?
Yeah, send this off and you get your registration document back. So where I'm moving to now, I'll be in a different area, a different local authority, because here it's the local authorities that handle the vehicle registration
Oh,
and
right.
kind of changes. There is a central vehicle kind of registration people, but they only really handle things like traditional renewing motor tax, changing address, all this kind of thing. It's the local authority that has to handle the thing. So where I'm moving now will be a different local authority. So it'll be interesting when I send the forms in to them and they look at this and say, ah, yeah, you're having a laugh. You think, sure, it's an electric truck. Sure. Let me type that up on my invisible typewriter for you. And so, there might be a bit more toing and froing there because unfortunately there's a bit of a history in this country of cars with much larger engines in them being registered as much smaller engines and paying less tax. So I think unfortunately some of them see yeah, sure, it's electric. Of course it is. Yeah.
This is my one,
No.
1 litre Dodge Charger. Yeah.
Yes, as I once said to a guy that was challenging me about that on one of the cars, and I sent him a link to the YouTube channel, and I said, if what I was doing was trying to dodge paying you like whatever it was, $1,000 a year in tax by doing all of this work, I would be the dumbest fraudster on the planet, right? Because I could have probably paid you 100 years tax by now for all the money I've spent doing this crap. So,
Yeah.
but we're lucky so
What's your
far.
favourite tool? What's the tool that you find most
Ooh,
useful most often?
okay, okay. I'm gonna just be right back. Okay. Man's best friend. Okay, this is my best friend. This is a honest to God. This thing is kind of. Okay. This is the most expensive single tool that I've ever bought, and I bought it secondhand. But oh yes, oh
One
yeah,
for the
this
shopping
is
list.
yes, this is, and for those that want to know, this is the Milwaukee M18 CHIWF12. This thing, no bolt can resist this. And when I get frustrated and angry and stuff, I just say, I'm getting this. I'm getting this. I'm going to get it. Okay, I'm going to get this. I'm going to put this on you. And the bolt just says, oh God, no, and just comes out. So that's it.
Brilliant. What's been the biggest challenge?
Probably money. Probably money, but it's also been the greatest strength for me. And that sounds weird because if I'd a load of cash, well, I just go buy brand new stuff off the shelf and just click it all together and great and go driving. But I think the fact that I haven't had money to spend has meant that I've had to, okay, better get the head working and we better figure out how to use a Nissan Leaf motor or a Prius inverter or a Tesla charger or whatever I can find and just make it work. And yeah, just so it's kind of weird. It's kind of, it's kind of one way. I don't
It's
know.
like all engineers need constraints. Like, there's no fun
Yeah.
engineering unless there's constraints, and money's one of them.
Yep. Yep.
And what's been the most
Sure is.
rewarding thing?
Oh, um, in general driving the cars. It's that first. It's the first roll, the first drive. That's it. I never forget the first time that I drove the first conversion, like with the forklift motor and homemade controller, the Paul Holmes controller, and a couple of scrap car batteries stuck in the boot, and it was when I pressed the throttle and the car just moved out of that parking spot. Only rolled 3 feet, but that was just, oh man, yeah, that's in
It's
there. Once you do that once, yeah, it was like, I don't know, it was just addictive.
it is. It's such a joy. It's
I
it's
think
so
you're in the
rewarding.
same boat now. You got too many cars now as well.
Well, I sold what used to be my. I don't drive very much. These are purely just fun projects. My car
Right.
mostly gets used. Well, now the EV gets used to drive to the garage to play with another EV, and it gets used to drive my daughter to dancing on a Saturday, and that's pretty much
Perfect.
it.
Perfect.
But yeah, they're just
Perfect.
going to look really pretty and occasionally put a big smile on my face.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Damien. That has been a lot of fun.
Not at all.
And, again, as I said to Johannes on the last episode, I'm so glad you did decide to give back to the community and put that effort in, because you've been the gateway drug for so many of us to get into EV conversions and made it
God,
much
I better
much
try
more
and hide.
possible.
I better try and hide. I'm gonna.
So yeah, I shall post a link to Damien's videos in the show notes. If you are looking to get started in this, they're a great place to start. Go and learn how to make sort of different bits, how things are hooked up. Good long instructional videos. Not at all boring despite his claims. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you like this. And if you just want an audio version, by the way, these podcasts are also put out as pure audio. You can get them on Spotify and Stitcher and Apple Podcasts and all the usual places you get podcasts as well. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.